Because tonight you gotta take it off call for me. Oh, well, I'm gonna leave in just a little bit anyway, so I probably won't be here if you got it. So if I can take it off, then I'll leave it. And I'm gonna call Kathy. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Latham, you are ready to proceed.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Conducted via video conferencing. The public may view and listen to the meeting at the following live stream URL, www.metrotech.edu/mtc-live. We'll go ahead and get a roll call. Joanne?
Mr. Perry,
Here.
Miss McKinney,
Here.
Miss Richards,
Here.
Dr. Teray,
Here.
Miss Campos, Mr. McKinney, and Mr. Latham.
Here.
6 present.
Appears we have a quorum. We'll move on to item number 3, the character trait of the month, and Miss Melanie Stinnett.
Good evening. I'm really honored to have been asked to present this month's character trait, which for the month of May, this will be the character trait of availability. Availability is defined as a willingness to change my schedule and priorities to meet a need. There's a great quote in here that I personally have used throughout my life. It's from President John F. Kennedy. And the quote is, "A man does what he must in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles, dangers, and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality." The Character Trait magazine has a lot of great examples this month on what the character trait of availability means. There's some really great pointers for strategies for team leaders and supervisors on how they can create boundaries within their own schedule and really impose their own time management so they can be more available and more supportive of their team members. That way they can listen and they can be part of the team experience. But one of the things I kept looking for when I was going through the Character Trait magazine, the Character Core magazine for the month, that I wasn't seeing was what is really the kernel of meaning and availability. Yes, willingness is part of it. You have to be willing to be available to change priorities, especially in the face of a crisis. But I kept reading, I kept looking for something that but it wasn't really screaming out to me until I finally got to the end. And that is that when you are available, you are present. In order to really help people, you have to be present in that moment, not just there physically. We've all experienced and been around people who've said, "Hey, if you ever need me, I'm there for you. I'm here for you, or I'm there for you." But that's lip service. In order to be available, we have to be present in the moment, and we have to be sensitive to the needs of that person or that situation in order to really be a servant, to be able to help, especially when something goes wrong, when a priority has got to shift in order for a goal to be attained. So reading throughout the magazine, these examples are great. How to be a better leader through availability, how to really lead your team and be sensitive to their needs and be able to listen and help them and support them. And then I got to the last page of the magazine and I found what I was looking for. Here are the tips to really be available. Look around, notice what's going on around you. Being available means you are aware and willing to step in and help with the needs of people who are around you. Don't wait until someone asks you for help, because sometimes the most helpful way that you can assist someone is the least obvious. Be able to be sensitive to the needs of the situation and the people that you are there with, and be present. Find a way to help. Once you observe a need, take an active approach to assist. Don't ignore a need when you see it, but make an effort to ask and offer the help that is needed. Working to help by being available could lead to solutions that might have been front of mind, might not have been at the front of someone's mind. And also serve cheerfully. And I saw this at the graduation ceremonies the other night. everyone that was there, everyone that had volunteered, people that showed up to assist at the graduation had not necessarily volunteered, but they thought, I might be needed, so I'll just go. Everybody was there, and they were there cheerfully, and they had their heart in the right place. If you are willing to serve and available to do so with your whole heart and without hesitation. Make others feel good about interacting with you and build on that relationship together. And that is part at the kernel of leadership, being available, serving wholeheartedly, being cheerful when you do it, and making sure that you're always able to adapt.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much. Appreciate that. We will move on to item number 4, the superintendent's report, and I'll turn it over to my seatmate.
Thank you, President Latham. Melanie, thank you for those words. That reminded me of something that I say quite often is very difficult to be viable if you're not visible. And so in order to be viable, you must be visible. So thanks for that reminder. Have several items just quickly that I want to remind everyone about, and our board members again. Board, thank you so much for all the work that you do, the committees that you serve on. I'm just grateful for that work. I know Dr. Teray has been working on a strategic plan. I know Ms. Richards has been working on our policies. Ms. McKinney has been working on personnel. Mr. McKinney been working on construction. And I really appreciate, Mr. Perry took the time to do our virtual board and to say a few words there. So did Miss Miriam and Mr. Latham. It's great to see Dr. Teray there at the graduation. And again, at our, not only at our virtual graduation, but in-person graduation, being able to see Dr. Teray and Miss Miriam, who was able to do all 3 graduations, and then President Latham as well. So it was just great to be in person and to see an audience. I just thought the graduation was so special and a great opportunity for us to share out, to shout it out what our students are doing, and the great work that they're doing. So that was awesome. And so thank you, board members. Also, thinking about awesome news is that we had the opportunity to visit Trinity at Edgemere today. They're going to be a new partner with us. They're a K through 12, and their high school, 12 of their high school students have been accepted to Metro Tech in various programs. And so we did a signing with them today at their school. They had their high school students present, those that were signing, as well as others. Some of the younger high school students who then came up and said, "Oh, I want to sign up for Metro Tech now." And so it was a great experience. Their parents were there for the signing. So really appreciate our teams getting together and putting that together there at that at school at Trinity. Great experience. We'll be on Channel 25 tonight, and our media was there, as well as PR for Trinity, and I'm grateful for Channel 25 being there as well. Also wanted to just do a shout out again for, we had several that participated in our virtual graduation. So Mayor Holt, Councilwoman Nikki Nice, Sheriff Johnson, Dr. Font from LCDA, and then of course, as I said, President Latham, Vice President Dr. Teray, and Mr. Perry. So thank you so much to all that participated in that. Also had an opportunity, just a reminder, we are a part of the Center of Workforce Excellence in Aerospace and Cybersecurity. If you recall, that is with Rose State College and Tulsa Community College. We continue to be partners with that. And so was able to be in a meeting today with Jim Breinstein, and was a great opportunity to be able to speak with those in the Oklahoma City community that are part of the aerospace and aviation here in our community. So really appreciate everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. It's good to see everyone at the board meeting tonight. President Latham, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and move forward with presentations and recognitions at this time.
Sure.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeremy Calley. Mr. Calley has a guest that he's going to introduce. As a reminder, Mr. Calley is the director of our South campus. Mr. Calley, it's good to see you tonight, and we're looking forward to the presentation. And go ahead and present, then introduce who is presenting for us tonight, please, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Collins, and thank you, Board of Education, for the opportunity to come back before you to highlight one of our absolute outstanding students. Pleased to be joined by his instructor as well. Mr. Glenn Sanders is here with us tonight as well. There's really not enough superlatives to give for this student, and thought about this all day of how to really bring justice to the outstanding man that Chris Henderson is. And I think the first thing that warrants mentioning is he served our country with distinction in the United States Navy for 11 years. And after his leave of the service, has gone into several things here in our local community, including being a realtor and being a part of our carpentry and construction program. He's got an outstanding story, some challenges personally in his life that have come about in the last few years, and Metrotech's place of helping him come out of those challenges in his life. And we couldn't be more excited that he chose Metrotech. Couldn't be more excited about the man that he is, and I enjoy seeing Chris every day on our campus, and he's just a real joy to have, and I know Mr. Sanders would echo that, and he's a pretty darn skilled carpenter as well. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you all Mr. Chris Henderson.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Calley. I'm deeply honored and humbled to be here. I can't say enough great things. So, you know, if everybody's ready, buckle up. I'll get started with my story. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, excellent. All right. So to start off, we got to go kind of back to when I was about 8 years old. I was living with my grandparents at the time, and my mother and father, and my grandfather, he also a fellow veteran of the Army, and he grew up during the Great Depression. So one of the things that he just grew up doing was he kept everything from old screws, nuts, and bolts to old books. Well, young 8-year-old in Grandpa's garage, you know, I ended up finding a book that had a picture of a two-person old-timey saw on it. And I believe it was called just Woodworking, all black and white. And even at 8, I didn't understand the words that I was reading, but it just captivated me. Being able to take, you know, wood and turn it into furniture to, you know, build a home with, to live in. I mean, the options are limitless, but it captivated me. And to this day, I still think about that book. I wish I could still get my hands on it. I don't know where it went after all this time, but it's stuck in my head. And so if we fast forward to 2019, I had served 11 years in the Navy and got out in 2017. So this was about 2 to 3 years later. You know, things started to get a little rough. Personally, my spouse had lost her job at the time, and she became fairly distant, and things weren't going so well. So I knew that I needed to do everything I could to keep us afloat. So I got a second job, and a month or so after that, I ended up getting a third job, and I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, and I almost burnt myself out. It was really hard to keep all that going. So I started looking at options. What did I have available to me that would work? So I remembered that in the process of getting out of the Navy, this program called Vocational Rehabilitation was available. And so I reached out to my representative, and I started getting information, learned how the process worked, and then was told to apply to college or apply to school. And I knew that with the VA backing me, that this was my opportunity to finally, after all these years, give it a shot and go for the carpentry. I chose this spot in my house for the meeting actually because of what it means to me. And my background right now is the china cabinets that my grandfather built before my mother was even born. They're Yeah, they are stunning, beautiful, and I actually just got them delivered about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I finally have a little piece of home and my grandfather with me, and it's kind of been an inspiration. So when I finally had the opportunity to learn a trade, and I didn't have to worry about basically anything, the VA was going to cover it, and so I took the shot. I went carpentry, and I absolutely love it. I understand why my grandfather, that was his big hobby. I understand why he made so many of his own things now. It's something that I truly feel like I relate to. He recently passed, unfortunately. It was actually about a month and a half into my first semester in February of last year. So school started on January 4th or 6th, I believe, and he ended up passing a month and a half. But that Christmas, I went back home and was able to see him for his 99th birthday, and was able to tell him my plan. Hey, I'm doing carpentry school. You inspired me to do this, and I'm sorry. uh, Again, it's something that I really enjoy doing. It brought me closer to him, and he was my hero. So when I finally started Metro Tech, I was so excited. Something new, something great. Well, rewind a little bit. I had told you that my spouse at the time had lost her job. Well, going to school, I'm working in a field or working towards a goal. I want to flip homes. And so carpentry is the first step. Well, my spouse at the time became more and more distant. And unfortunately, like all this started and happened right at the beginning of school. I ended up filing for divorce. And there's a lot to that. But so I was on my own. Finally, after all this time out of the Navy, I'm a single parent. My son lives with me. I have two daughters that every time their school is out, I try to get them here. This was quite the transition for me to go from, married to single, now with three kids, and having to find that dynamic, not to mention the COVID that everybody struggled with. But I kept at it. And my first 3 months right before school shut down for COVID, I did nothing but the book work, and I read every chapter and I did every test, and I worked as hard as I ever have before, because no matter what happens, I'm going to make my goals a reality. So since just starting in class, even before I had my own confidence, Mr. Sanders, he was always there to push me that much further. Like, yeah, okay, I see your comfort zone. Let's go a step further. And so since then, I've actually picked up multiple jobs, little side projects and side jobs for other realtors. Part of home buying process, there's a repair negotiation period, and I've helped out with some of my clients and some of my realtor coworkers, their clients as well. Honestly, I tried to do a little bit of everything because I want to learn how to do everything. So I've been making a lot of cabinets as well. I made my son, I'm in the process of making him a dresser, rehabbing it, but I made him from scratch his bed and headboard. Queen size bed with storage underneath, and the headboard is really cool. It's got LED lights on it and everything, and he absolutely loves it. And the things that I make, just like this china cabinet that my grandfather built, they're going to last a lifetime. And I hope they last even longer. I hope to see those in my, hopefully long from now, grandchildren's beds. So this class, I started it at a very dark period in my my life transition, especially, recently being discharged from the Navy, and, all this just kind of hit real hard all at once. And the environment and the atmosphere that my teachers, Mr. Sanders and Mr. Guyton as well, he's our assistant teacher, they provided me this type of environment that was, non-judgmental. It was engaging. It was an escape, honestly. I hate to use the cliche term, but it really was a safer space. Every day I showed up for school, it was like everything else can wait. I have a goal, I have a task. And that alone, I believe, made a huge difference in my life. As a veteran and the struggles that, follow alongside with many of them, the school kept me on the right path. And specifically Mr. Sanders and Mr. Guyton, they were instrumental in my growth as an amateur carpenter. And without their help and encouragement, I wouldn't have done as well as I did. And Mr. Guyton was always like, come on, you want that student of the year, right? You got to get that better grade. And, as I was working jobs and still building my confidence, Mr. Sanders was never more than a phone call away. Here's a picture. What does this look like? Am I doing it right? And every time he'd be like, you're fine, and little by little that built my confidence up. And that doesn't just stop with Mr. Sanders and Mr. Guyton. That branches to all divisions. Every staff member I have interacted with this year as a whole has been nothing but unbelievably supportive and embracing. They want the best for me. They want the best for my family, they just want everything for me. And it really does make a difference. Now, I'm obviously not a high school student. I'm a Navy veteran. I've seen the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And I can honestly say that the staff here at Metro Tech is far beyond. They go above and beyond with every student. And I personally really do appreciate each and every one of you for that. The dark period in my life is over, and Metro Tech was a huge part of that happening, me getting over that, past that point. And in the future, I'm not done learning. I want to keep coming, whether it be as a student utilizing the VA resources available, or if there might be an opportunity available to make something else happen, but continue my education with Metro Tech. I'm over the moon about it. So does anybody have questions?
No. I applaud you, Chris. It's amazing when we're determined and you get through it. It's good to know the staff.
Absolutely. I honestly couldn't agree more.
That's good news.
Thank you.
The toughest thing that you've had to build? So obviously a bed is probably a challenge, but so far, what's the biggest challenge? As somebody who considers himself worse than an amateur carpenter, I'm just curious.
So the bed honestly was easier because I did get those plans offline. I followed the instructions. I modified them where I felt necessary, and I made a few tweaks here and there. But the hardest thing that I have built, most difficult and challenging, would be my son's headboard. That is a complete, off the top of my head, custom design. I spent about a week drawing it out, making the measurements, making sure that the material I had would cover everything I wanted to do. And I need to send Mr. Sanders a video of the headboard I made with the LED lights, and I'm so proud of it. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of. And that was really a milestone for me too, because I came up with that all on my own, and it matches the style of the bed. I stained it right. So that is definitely the top one so far.
That's awesome.
If you don't finish, you have 3 days to finish your dresser, or I'm going to set it on fire.
I'll get it done, I promise.
That was his instructor, if no one knew who that was. Came in there. Well, Chris, it was a joy to meet you. I know I speak for Miss Sarah McKinney as well, and being able to meet you a couple of weeks ago in the Student of the Year. So congratulations in being named that for the South Bryant site. And it was a pleasure to meet you in person.
It was an honor of a lifetime, honestly. Thank you guys for, voting me, I guess.
Mhm.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. It was good to hear Mr. Sanders' voice there from space. Next we'll be introducing Mr. Kyle Williams. Mr. Williams is our Director of Program Planning, Development, and Recruitment. You will see on the agenda that Mr. Williams will be leaving us. He's done a good quality job for us, and he will be missed. We hope to have him back. Mr. Williams, the floor is yours. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Good evening, everyone. Well, in any organization, there are those unsung heroes, people in positions who work behind the scenes and yet are incredibly impactful. As the student data entry technician, Sonia Kluver's work involves every enrollment and completion entered and maintained in our student information system. Sonia is also a master magician, and I know she must be a master magician because time and time again, I hear people say, Sonia, can you work your magic on this? And she does just that. As an expert problem solver, she ensures timely and accurate student data, which we rely on so heavily throughout the district. So it is my pleasure to introduce a valued friend and colleague, Miss Sonia Kluver.
Hello, that was very nice. Whoever nominated me, that was very sweet of you. I appreciate it. I've been here, it'll be 30 years in October if I make it. Just kidding. I started out at South Bryant campus. We used to have a fashion merchandising class, and it was going to go under, and so they were trying to save it and bring in a sewing teacher, but that didn't help. Kids just don't sew nowadays. So then they moved me over to another program as the teacher's aide in vision and hearing impaired class. And that had low enrollment also, so they shut that down. So then they moved me over to ITC to be the attendance clerk. And as I was there, more jobs were just added to it, and I loved it. I loved my coworkers over at ITC. That was probably has been my best times here with Sarah Green and Lois Jones, for anybody that knows them. But anyway, in 2012 is when we got the new system that we're working on now. And so they moved me over here to customer service, or to student services, I'm sorry. And I've been here since then, and I love it. And I don't know what else to say. So, you have any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you again for whoever nominated me. That was very, very sweet.
Miss Sonia, thank you so much for all of your magic that you do. And it's so good to see you this evening. I love how Kyle introduced you, and thank you for being a valued member of Team Metro Tech and to continue to support quality career training. So thank you for all that you do, Miss Sonia.
Thank you. You all have a good evening.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for 30 years of service. I think that says something, and working in different capacities.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask you to continue doing your magic, whatever that is.
Well, I'll have to ask next time someone says that. What are you talking about? No, I really do love doing what I do. It does feel like a big puzzle sometimes, and I just work on it till it's worked out.
Well, thank you very much.
And we'll move on to next item on the agenda, the financial report.
We have with us Mr. Bruce Campbell, who's treasurer and also interim finance director. We appreciate all that he does, and I'm grateful to have him with us tonight. Mr. Campbell, the floor is yours, sir.
Very good. Thank you. It's good to be with each of you this evening and have a brief financial update for you this evening. We're in very good financial condition for the point of the year we're in. We can tell that we're going to see some growth in our fund balance for this fiscal year in both the general fund and the building fund. A couple of things just of note, and then I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have about the balance sheet or the financial statements. But we are currently at 94% of our ad valorem levy that has been collected. And that's a really good place to be right now. We should finish the year between 96 and 97%. And then eventually there'll be some delinquent collections that will come in and we'll collect all of that money. The other thing of note is that at the end of May, we will be making our first principal payment on the 2019 bond issue. So that payment, along with the interest payment, will be slightly over $9 million that will be paid from the sinking fund to our trustee bank at the end of May. Are there any questions about the financial report?
Bruce, one question I had for you real quickly is, I saw a piece of legislation on this the other day. I was just curious how we were handling it. Evidently, they're allowing you to use some of the COVID relief dollars that are coming in and putting that into your building fund. Is that something, I don't know how much we've got coming in. It seems like there's so many random rounds of that it's become very confusing for me. But where are we at on COVID relief dollars? Are there still some coming in? And if so, are we utilizing the building fund option should that legislation go into effect fairly soon?
Okay, so yes, we still have dollars that are yet to come in from the COVID packages. There are 3 COVID packages. The first one was called CARES, and we've received 100% of that funding. I don't have those numbers right in front of me. I believe I summarized those on the last month's board meeting report, but we received 100% of those funds, with half of those funds going to student financial aid payments. Then there was the second round, which is the acronym is, I believe, CRRSA, and that was the one that was passed by Congress in December prior to the current administration, and that package we have received the student portion, and that money has been paid out, and we have approximately $600,000 of that money yet to come in. That money can be applied. Some recent clarifications say that money can be applied towards lost revenue, as well as towards actual expenditures that we've made that were necessary because of extra cost we had for the pandemic. Those monies have not yet been claimed, or that almost 600,000, but I anticipate that money will actually be in hand by the end of the year, by the end of the fiscal year. And then finally we have, and again, I don't like to pull numbers out of the air, but in excess of $1 million from the third wave, what is known as the American Recovery Plan, or the third stimulus package. And of those dollars, approximately half will go to student financial aid payments, and the remaining half can be used again in the same way that I just outlined: lost revenue, documentable lost revenue, or expenditures that we've had because of pandemic-related expenses. Now then, I'm constantly learning about this particular situation, Mr. Latham, and to speak directly to your point about that money going into the building fund, the current understanding I have is that the only dollars that could go into the building fund would be to recover expenditures we had from the building fund that were necessary to take care of pandemic related expenses. So we could not put that money into the building fund for just any building fund purpose. But yes, if it was directly related and the expenditure had come from the building fund, then yes, that reimbursement would appropriately go to the building fund. I hope I didn't get too wordy. I would just hope that addressed the question.
That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell?
Mr. Latham, this is Linda Teray. I don't know, I've been reading a little bit about the general fund carryovers. Given what you said, is there any chance that we may have too much carryover as we go into next year? Are you at that point where you can even talk about that?
I can certainly talk about that. Fund balance is actually something that fund balance and carryover are interchangeable terms. Okay. So when I refer to fund balance, that is the same as what you're referring to as carryover. It's that amount that we have left at the end of the fiscal year that is either the net increase or the net decrease, but it's the dollars we carry into the next year. And I can assure you, we are not even close to being at the maximum amount. And we're not trying to get to the maximum amount. What we are trying to do over what will probably be a period of 2 or 3 years is to get to a point where we have a healthy, responsible fund balance that will keep us from having to borrow any money during those first 5 to 6 months of the fiscal year to meet our operating expenses, because that's a very expensive and unnecessary proposition. And we will have our balance. Let's just say we're working towards the goal of having our fund balance in the neighborhood of $10 million for the general fund. And it's interesting you ask. I'm looking at some numbers, and at this point in time, I know this is a large range, but I think we will end the year somewhere between 7.3 million and 8.7 million in the general fund. And that is dependent upon which revenues actually come in by June 30th and what our actual expenditures are at that time. So we will definitely highlight that for you when we present the June financial report in July. That'll be something we point out. So excellent question and a very timely question.
So I have a question. Is that amount what you consider to be a healthy balance?
For a school district the size of Metro Tech, I believe we should be at approximately $10 million based on our current financial situation. I do not consider $7 to $8 million to be unhealthy. I would say that it is a very good movement in the right direction to get us to that ultimate goal. So, it's only been a couple of years ago that we were down around $3 million. And I would call that extremely unhealthy for a district of this size. But we don't want to build a war chest here. What we're doing is trying to have a fund balance that will allow us to work our way through those first 5 months of the fiscal year where we have very little revenue coming in and not be in a position of having to borrow funds and being able to move forward with our budget and our purchasing.
Okay, what is the balance that you would consider that would cause interference with appropriations?
Ms. McKinney, I'm not certain that I know. I'm not certain that I fully understand your question. Could you just say that again, and maybe it'll come through differently? So
it has been known that there are times when, if there is a large carryover, when appropriations are delegated, then it may have an adverse effect on how much monies you receive.
I've got it. I'm sorry. I fully understand the question now. Yes, there are rules that are set forth by the Oklahoma Department of Career Tech that calculate an amount that is considered excess carryover. And if you go over that amount, it puts the district at risk of losing a portion of their appropriation from the state.
Yes.
And so that number, we're a good ways away from that number, but I think it would be in the neighborhood of $12.5 to $13 million. And again, I recently have looked at that very carefully at Moore Norman when I was there. And that was the number there. And we are so similar in size and in budget to Moore Norman that I feel confident putting that number out there for you. That's a responsible estimate. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, and looks like that's upcoming events. Superintendent Collins.
And several different events coming up, so we don't want to forget about the OSSBA opportunities with the new and incumbent board members in-person workshops. That's Friday, May 21st, and Making Student Achievement #1 in-person workshop. That's Saturday, May 22nd. We will have the Memorial Day holiday coming up on May 31st. The Greater Oklahoma City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, remember that anniversary gala has been moved to June 4th at Gaillardia Country Club. And then the June Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, June 15th at 5:30. Depending on what happens, we're looking at that is going to possibly be in person. And right now we're looking at having that meeting at our EDC building here on the Spring Lake campus. Tentatively, room 123 is what we're looking at. June special Board of Education meeting in which we're going to be able to have further discussions will be June 16th, 1 through 4. That's the board retreat. So right now that is tentative for June 16th, 1 to 4 p.m. And that will be at our downtown business campus at our corporate tower, Suite 300. The June Board of Education meeting, then the second one is June 29th at 5:30. Then we have July 5th for Independence Holiday. And then the Board of Education meeting for July is July 13th. And then we have the Oklahoma Career Tech Summer Summit. And that is August 2nd and 3rd.
Great, perfect. We will move on to board member reports. Do we have any board member reports?
Mr. Latham, this is Linda Teray. I would just like to commend the administrators and staff for the graduation programs. It was great to be present and to see the parents and students celebrating their kids' achievement. And I really, and that's from the aviation campus to the graduations that were held at Capitol Hill. It was great to be a part of that and just see the accomplishments and the recognitions for the hard work of our students and staff. And so I commend them all. And secondly, Superintendent Collins mentioned the strategic plan, and he mentioned that board members and focus groups would be contacted and want you thinking about what we do well and what we can improve upon and what do we want to look like in 5 years. And so I appreciate your confidence in having me serve on that committee. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. McKinney.
From the Personnel Committee, we are recommending the proposed changes as are listed on the agenda tonight. We spent a considerable amount of time in discussion on these items and ready to move forth on them. Additionally, you received a board meeting information listing from the superintendent, I believe on yesterday afternoon, that further explained some of the issues and changes. We do have some personnel changes, personnel title changes. from chief officer to assistant superintendent and so forth that are listed on the memorandum for you. Another thing that this is just a comment about my serving on the interviewing committee for the Students of the Year. It was one of the most wonderful experiences. I think there were like 15, were there 15 students, Superintendent Collins, that we interviewed?
I believe there was 11, Miss Sarah.
Was it 11? Well, I'm counting, I guess I'm counting the third day that we met where we had to make a decision.
Yes, ma'am, you're right. Yes, ma'am.
It was the most wonderful experience. The instructors did a good job of selecting those students of the year for each program. They were prepared. There were a couple of them who did not follow instructions specifically, but I was so impressed with those students. And it let me know that a lot of great things are happening in the classrooms. They spoke very highly of their instructors. They spoke highly of the program. They spoke highly of the district. They were very courteous and thanked the board for the opportunity to be there. It was just a very refreshing experience, very taxing. We had some good candidates and it took a long time to arrive at a decision, but it was very well worth the time. It really was. They even offered some very few suggestions for improvement in a couple of the programs, and one that stuck out in my mind for the electrical class, the recipient student of the year suggested that they needed studs for the program. I have no idea what studs are.
We've already looked into it, Ms. McKinney. Yeah.
But they all did very well, and I was just thrilled to do it. So if you have an opportunity to sit in on those interviewing sessions, you learn a lot from those students for sure. It makes you feel really good about what we're doing at Metro Tech.
I don't think they were referring to people when they spoke of studs.
Well, I figured that wasn't the case. It had to do something with what they needed to work on climbing the buildings and what have you, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Replace the wooden studs in the wall so that they can screw in the electrical outlets. There was too many holes, so we need to redo that wood.
Okay. And one of the students suggested that they're allowed to do more shadowing, like going to work sites. And we had some good discussion. It was really worth the while. Like 2 days and 2 days and a couple of hours. It went well. So if you have an opportunity to sit in on those interview sessions at the end of the school year, please take the opportunity to do it. You'll be very pleased and learn a lot, like what a stud is.
Yeah, I was about to volunteer Jimmy to go be the stud for the program, but I got
Miss Miriam has something.
President Latham, I will also just comment on the recent graduation. Just want to congratulate all of those students who received their degrees, and just so proud to see everyone there with their family. I saw so many moms crying at the end that I could hear them saying, you know, I'm so proud of you. You got through it. And so I think those are the most memorable moments that, you know, they can see them through the finish line. And I know it took a lot of effort, a lot of hours, a lot of, as we heard earlier from our students, you know, a lot of ups and downs. And I know there were many of you on this call who helped them through those classes, that assisted them with anything possible to get them to that finish line. So thank you to everyone who is on the call, who is helping our students through this process, day in and day out, through this crazy pandemic year that we've had. You know, it wouldn't be possible without the support of everyone behind the scenes that is teaching, that is helping us run this whole district, this entire program. So thank you to everyone who's contributing to this efforts, and we got to see them through that finish line. So it was very fun as well, seeing so many beautiful faces and shoes, and Dr. Teray and I had so much fun looking at their beautiful shoes as they walked the stage and their hats, and we had a blast. So again, thank you to all of you.
Any other board member reports? I'll just echo what Miriam and Dr. Trey both said, and just really enjoyed the graduation. It was a lot of fun. So, all right, we'll move on to item number 5, board reports for review. I know that several of us have expressed how valuable that is. I want to say that I continue to hear that from board members, so really do appreciate that. Any questions that we have for anyone based off the board reports?
Mr. Latham, this is Linda Teray, President Latham. I had one question, but the superintendent answered it when he talked about Trinity. I was going to ask about Trinity and how Metro Tech, because the grade level for Trinity was not on there. And I thought Trinity in Edgemere, I was trying to figure that out, but the superintendent answered it. So no questions for me.
Perfect. Any other questions on the board reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6. Approval of the minutes from our April 13th meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Joanne, will you call it roll?
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Motion carries. Move on to item number 7, the consent docket. Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the consent docket.
Second.
Okay. We have a couple motions in a second. Joanne, will you call the roll?
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Item 7 carries. Item number 8, general business. Do we have a motion? Okay, we have a motion.
Move to approve item 8, please.
And Teray seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on my item number 8? Seeing no discussion, Joanne, will you call the roll?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney,
Oh, sorry. Do we have some discussion? I'm sorry.
Yes, I didn't move fast enough.
You're fine.
On item H and I would like to know the difference of service here for the project search training. One is from DRS and one is from a place in Ohio.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Collins is on here and can answer more to it. Remember that for the services that we provide are actually helpful through DRS. And so those are who those referrals come through. And then Mrs. Collins, would you go further into, I believe Children's Hospital is the hospital that we're going to be using for project search and coaching?
Yes, sir. So the one in Ohio is actually where the national office is out of, and we have an agreement with them because we utilize their curriculum, we utilize their model, their framework. DRS is how we do the billing. So we actually bill DRS, and DRS pays Metro Tech for these students to attend, and that's how we help offset the cost for the program.
Okay, but the materials actually come from the Ohio entity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on item number 8? Seeing none, Joanne, will you call the roll?
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Item number 8 carries. Item number 9. Do we have personnel? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, Joanne, will you call the roll?
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
and Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Item 9 carries. Item 10, encumbrances and purchasing. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Joanne, will you call the roll?
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
and Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Item 10 carries. And item number 11, adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Oh, my.
We've got a motion, and I think that was a second by Ms. Campos.
Yes.
All right, motion and a second. Joanne, will you call the roll?
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. McKinney,
Aye.
Ms. Campos,
Aye.
Mr. McKinney,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Dr. Teray,
Aye.
and Mr. Latham.
Aye.
All aye.
Great, thanks everybody, and I'm excited that I won't be the only one who drives to our campus next month when I get to see you all in person. I was a little premature there, but looking forward to seeing all of you next month at our meeting. So everybody have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Fun.
Thank you. Adjournment.